I read it as that you're suspended in time, because space means you're suspended in space where there's no concept of time, where there's no concept of something which is compartmentalized. And at the same time, we are in a way compartmentalized in terms of the street, the pavement, the walking, etc., etc. And so that whole aspect of duality, non-duality, material, immaterial is part of the inherent focus and essence of Indian philosophy,
Yes.
which we may not understand, but we are still living it.
I just wanted to know what they wanted to communicate. So I let my soul just swim with their thought. So simple was the walk. So simple was this thought, and yet so complex, yet so intelligent. There was a woman sitting, that is where the metal and immaterialistic thing happens. She was no least bothered. Not for once she winked her eye and said, looked at them. That's how the soul becomes. If she was wanting something metallic out of them, she would have, normally it's not a very nice thing to say, but she would have begged, she would have asked, something like that. Oblivious from whatever is happening. It's a very, very simple film and a very difficult film. It's very easy to make complicated films. It's very difficult nowadays to say a simple thought and simply communicate to others. That way I would say kudos to you. You come from a different culture to a very vibrant culture of India, full of colors. You come from colors which are not normally used in my country, the whites and only the touch of red, and yet they are not shocked. They let you imbibe with them. They let you, the fusion happens.
Yes.
And that's the most beautiful thing. I was wondering if I had that time known, I would have certainly filmed and would have liked to ask all those people as to what do you understand out of what was happening.
The courage to make this film, not to make the film, but to do the walkabout, to come to India. I mean, can you imagine going to Austria and putting on some kind of a monkey suit or something, and then doing a performance art thing in the street that was not entertaining, and just doing that in the place, just imagine it. The courage to do it, the commitment that what you're doing will actually have some interest in communication for everybody. When you go somewhere with work to do, with a performance to present, you have such a profoundly different relationship with the people and the environment and the city because you're interacting. You care what they think. They are all real people. You're doing it for them. Whereas if you go somewhere and you're a visitor and you're just a tourist, you have no connection. You're just looking like through a glass screen. And you see that's very interesting. But you don't really care what people think. You're not seeing, you're not like, what will they think? And I mean, what they did made them so intimately connected with all of the people with their cell phones taking pictures, the people who are selling soft drinks, the troublemakers, the hangers-on in Connaught Place, the average people. But they are intimately connected with all of them because they're doing something with them and for them. That interaction is a very profound thing. Everybody is familiar now with concepts of like flash mobs and to some extent performance art and happenings. And so I think people realize that, wow, this is something very special happening, that I'm the unique one that gets to be here and see it. I have like a million questions, like when did you think of the music, and did you have any music playing? And did you have any real people taking pictures, or how many real people, and what was their brief for taking the photographs?
What really intrigued me was that I was watching the film. It is a film where each one of us has a different approach to what you were portraying. Obviously, you had something in mind, but there were portions of the film which made me feel that, like for instance, when you came before the Gandhi statues, you became from being into a state of becoming. That music, Gandhi philosophy, and those pauses with your umbrella, at that moment, wherever you were, you became something with your environment. Sure, he saw thousands of people going up and down, running hither and thither, giving the impression of being very busy. And they said that was a pilgrimage. And he said, no, that is not a pilgrimage, that is an occupation. Pilgrimage is when you go into uncharted territory, fearlessly, knowing that there is a shore. That becomes the mission of your life. So what I felt was, after seeing the film, that there was a certain mission from point 1 to point B, and to enjoy it as a personal experience. So like we say in Indian music or in Western music, and especially Indian classical music is universal in implication but personal experience. So watch the walk that you had and the interactions, watching people watching you, became an experience also which was personal to you, but which was universal in a way. So the film to me, had a lot of thought-provoking aspects. It was like an abstract painting, you have a look at it, but each one reads something into it. It's like, I would say, we have a concept of ragmala paintings. We have in classical music, we have the concept of rag, which is a permutation of notes. Now, in the ragmala paintings, you have, as in India, you would know, you have the technical side, of course, the painting. You also have the philosophical connotation. There is a meaning to it. And this, in the same way, I think the work-oriented, any film, anything, brings about a harmony between the concept and the execution. And this is the harmony in your approach to life. So, as a lawyer, now this was what I said as an artist, but as a lawyer I would say that, when we talk, we say that law is not just logic. It is not a set of inexorable scientific laws, but it is an experience. So this itself, and also the fact that law is manned by human beings, human institutions to serve a human end. So what you did through your camera is capture what perhaps a person who leads, as Shovna said, a life which is what his life is, a mundane life, but which is predetermined. He has to do a certain thing. But yet there was a determination when you were making those prints. You were concentrating on what you are doing. And that is what is important in life. That you concentrate, you do everything, you go along the flow of time, but you concentrate on what you think is important.
Every painting basically leaves so many interpretations, and people who see that, they can have their own interpretation of it. But a white man's perspective. So that's why when we talk about the labor, we think of the darker side. It's more darker, grayish. But when we are showing the two different characters, they are totally in white. So we can put it through the white man's job the white collar job, how you see the labor, the dignity of labor. So we can have a of that, through installation art, which we are trying to make a documentary, is one of the very good form which I accepted as such. Of course, every documentary should have a storyline. Well, to some extent it is, to some extent it is not. But overall, it's a personal experience that what you gain from watching the film.
One thing which is very useful for you, that this form of film is also very acceptable because a documentary's simple line, like this simple film, is documentation of the subject. And they wanted to document their personal walking on the streets of India. That way, it's a very, very acceptable film for all of you.
That's documentary which I saw an awesome documentary. There's an Arc of Mirrors, it's a post-war film.
There are other films as well. So films have been a subject of enduring interest. Now, coming to this particular film, I'm looking at it from a completely different approach. First, of course, when I looked at the cart and I saw these scans, it gave me two ideas. One is life, because these are the sort of cans that we used particularly during the Second World War to supply powdered milk to children, and that gave them life. This was also the sort of can in which Zyklon D was supplied to concentration camps by Bayer and company. But the Nazis used it to eliminate Jews, you see. The cart is also very symbolic. The similar kind of carts in which the Jews were made to break stones outside Sobibor or outside Auschwitz. And at the end of it, when they were gassed, it was the ash. So white symbolizes peace, the kind of peace that Gandhi talked about. It was the apostle of peace, or the kind of peace that Mother Teresa talked about. The ash brought some other idea. You see, before the ash, I say the cart itself in India, if you go, you would find 80% of lepers who beg on the streets are carried in similar carts. And there is invariably another person or another leper who pulls the leper in the cart. Yes. Now what does the leper symbolize? The leper symbolizes the philosophy of Jesus Christ. That is because he worked amongst the lepers. That is the kind of philosophy that Mother Teresa believed in. She worked amongst the lepers in Calcutta, Nirmal Hriday. I've been to these places, I was agreed. So it is life, intertwining of life and death, you see. Along with the philosophy of Gandhi and Mother Teresa and the great apostles of peace, you see, which ultimately showed the triumph of humanity over the concept of Zyklon D. Those were crystals, you see. And now when you go beyond the earth, you go to the space, you find the dress that was selected, sort of, it shows you a state of animated suspension in space, you see, which means you're beyond the earth, and yet you're not right up to the heavens, you're somewhere stuck in between like a Trisham. So it shows a kind of non-gravity kind of a situation. And when you compare it to the pantomime, the dress that Marcel and all these people in France started, sometimes showing the reality of life through the media of pantomime, you see, surrealistic being shown in a realistic way. So it's also a graphic description of life.
Within the frame. So these are young students that are here today, and I think this will go a long way in telling them about subtext, about metaphors. And my own observation was there were two moments where I took time to look around. So initially the frame was not the conventional way you look at life. And I looked at some of them, and initially they did, they moved their neck. But after a while, it did not do that, which meant, you kind of fall within the pace and the rhythm of the film. Also, I think everything is so structured in today's life that to tell them what is unstructured, what is abstract, what is surreal, what is just pure human, like Ramaji said, simple, the Dvaita Advaita. I think this will go a long way, this interaction today. So I thank you all for inviting us And it's really helped us.